We are in the studio of Eddie Wong. He is our fellow from Malaysia. Eddie, you have been here now for almost 2 months, 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Coming from Malaysia, you're part of the Reflect residency by the Goethe Institute and supported by the German Foreign Federal Ministry. How was your overall experience in Leipzig? What were your most important or most influential impressions you had here staying?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, thank you for having me into Leipzig International Arts Program. Yeah, it's been a short but fruitful time. Had a fantastic time throughout winter, actually. And my first impression of Leipzig was that it's very artistic, very musical city. In my first week, I was taken to tour the Bach Church in St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I was told about the history of the city, its printing press history, its music history, and yeah. And I found like this is very inspiring.
Eddie, you're working with artificial intelligence, filmmaking. How did it feel being here in Leipzig where so much analog work you've done? Do you think these two subject matters can actually be beneficial to each other?
Oh, absolutely. I personally benefited a lot from looking at analog works. I'm personally a huge fan of analog works. AI is just a tool that I use in my work as a tool for critique as well as production. So I'm not oblivious to the biases and the problematics of AI, and I think it's important to acknowledge that in my work as well. But yeah, my heart is still in analog work and just looking at all the different styles of etching, of printing and painting, which AI might not even be able to capture, was inspiring to me. Yeah.
You're working, you have shown a film, we see it in the background of the screen here. You have been working about post-colonial themes and topics, and also this film has a very biographical basis. Please, could you speak a little bit about what you were showing during the Rundgang exhibition last week?
Yes, so for the Rundgang, I was showing my film from 2022 called Portrait of Jungle People. So as you mentioned, it's quite a biographical film about my family history, particularly my grandfather's involvement in the colonial war, anti-colonial war with the British during the 1950s, where he was shot and killed, but we never found the body, and his body wasn't in the graveyard, and the portrait on his tombstone might not even be him. So it's this it was the beginning of a mystery that I was trying to solve, which gave inspiration to this film. And AI was a tool for me to kind of bridge the gaps, to kind of fill in the gaps of the archives that might have been missing. An archive that tells of this narrative of these marginalized communities and erased people from the history books. So the use of AI wasn't meant to be illustrative or descriptive of the history, but more of a generative history, which mixes fiction and documentary. And yeah, so my intention was to really read into the past, but trying to write the future as well, by engaging with technology. So the version of Portrait of the Jungle People that I made during my time in LIA is a redux version, which I added a new voiceover, and also additional documentary photography into the film. And yeah, it's very exciting to see an old work being brought alive again during my time here.
We have been to Berlin with the Palais Populaire and received a beautiful guided tour by Zara for the exhibition, which also had post-colonial themes, which were triggered in the exhibition. Do you feel that this is connecting to your work and your research? Did you get a new sort of insight by how we Germans deal with this topic? Could you feel points to connect with or to relate? What do you think? Do we do a good job here?
That trip to Palace Popular was one of the most memorable museum visits during my time here in Germany.
Why?
First of all, the whole Sarah was super lovely. You know, the guided tour was excellent and very insightful, and she's definitely, obviously, very knowledgeable, and it was just a really well curated show. Probably the best I've seen out of all the galleries in Berlin. And of course the theme of colonialism was very close to my heart, and it's apparent in the show, especially colonialism in all its forms and disguises, and countries as well, like Africans and Asians. And in fact, there was a Malaysian artist there, Wong who has his work there as well, a very respected Malaysian artist, and so it was surprising for me to see that there. Yeah, it definitely relates to my research, or at least my sphere of interest. Just seeing how artists and brings together all these threads, colonial threads, narrative together, and channel it into such colorful outputs of various mediums, and without just kind of harking on the past and saying, it was bad, colonialism was bad, or it wasn't a black and white thing. I think the whole curation of the exhibition managed to. What struck me about the whole exhibition at the Palace Popular was that it wasn't dogmatic. It wasn't a black and white issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, I think the dialogue about it was very strong.
Yeah.
Opening up the possibility to talk about what you see, and also this element of education. That's what I found of you showing your film at the Rundgang. I think many people connected with this because it's a personal family history, but we are also in a constant state of educating ourselves about these colonial topics, and many people do not know a lot about it, and for us it's wonderful having people like you here showing us different parts of history we are not very knowledgeable about, through your personal means and histories, and also way of generating art. And I think that was very meaningful, showing this film during the book. And I'm very curious how the reflection will go on when you're back to Malaysia, and what will influence your previous upcoming work.
Yeah.
What are you going to do when you're going back to Malaysia? Is there a first plan?
My first plan is to establish a studio for myself. I'm looking for a studio space, very much inspired by this room here. Somewhere where I could work, spacious enough for me to live and work in the same place.
Yeah.
And secondly, I'm going to use the studio to start an educational initiative.
Fantastic.
Running workshops and developing courses to teach generative AI art and how to bring autobiographical content into visuals and filmmaking.
Yeah.
I think my resolution for 2024 is really to give back to my community in Malaysia.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's fantastic to hear. Thank you so much for the conversation, Eddie.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm very eager to hear how your plans are going to evolve.
Yes.
And thank you for joining the program.
You're welcome. My pleasure.